Ruth and Naomi lived in a time of famine, loss, and uncertainty. The land of Bethlehem was suffering, and food was scarce. Because of this hardship, a woman named Naomi left her home with her husband Elimelech and their 2 sons. They traveled to the land of Moab, hoping to survive and find stability. What began as a temporary journey soon became a long and painful chapter in Naomi's life. Tragedy struck Naomi quickly. Her husband died, leaving her alone in a foreign land with her 2 sons. Still, she held on, believing life would improve. Her sons married Moabite women named Orpah and Ruth. For a while, Naomi found comfort in her family. But then sorrow returned. Both of her sons died, leaving Naomi without a husband and without children. She was now completely alone, surrounded by grief and uncertainty. Naomi heard that the Lord had provided food again in Bethlehem. With nothing left for her in Moab, she decided to return home. Orpah and Ruth prepared to go with her, walking beside her on the road. Naomi turned to them and urged them to return to their own families. She believed she had nothing left to offer them. No future, no security, only hardship. Orpah wept and eventually returned to her people. Ruth, however, refused to leave. Naomi pleaded with her again, explaining the difficulties ahead. Life in Bethlehem would not be easy for a foreign widow. Ruth listened, but her decision was firm. She spoke words that would echo through history. "Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." Ruth's words were not spoken lightly. They were a declaration of loyalty, love, and faith. She chose Naomi not out of obligation, but out of devotion. Ruth left behind her homeland, her culture, and her security to walk beside a grieving woman with no promises of comfort. When Naomi and Ruth arrived in Bethlehem, the town was stirred. The people recognized Naomi, but she was no longer the woman they remembered. She told them not to call her Naomi, which means pleasant, but Mara, which means bitter. She believed the Lord had dealt harshly with her. Her heart was heavy with grief, and she saw her life as empty. Ruth did not abandon her. Instead, she went to work. As a poor widow, she followed the custom of gleaning, collecting leftover grain from the fields after the harvesters passed. This was exhausting, humble labor, but Ruth worked diligently to provide food for herself and Naomi. By what seemed like chance, Ruth gleaned in the field of a man named Boaz. Boaz was a relative of Naomi's late husband and a man of integrity and kindness. He noticed Ruth and asked about her. When he learned who she was and how she had cared for Naomi, he was deeply moved. Boaz spoke kindly to Ruth, offering her protection and extra grain. He praised her for her loyalty, saying she had shown greater kindness by staying with Naomi than by seeking an easier life elsewhere. Ruth was overwhelmed by his generosity and humbled by his words. When Ruth returned home, Naomi realized that Boaz was a kinsman redeemer. This meant he had the right to protect their family line and provide security. Hope stirred in Naomi's heart for the first time in a long while. The bitterness that had consumed her began to soften. Following Naomi's guidance, Ruth approached Boaz with humility and trust. Boaz responded honorably, ensuring everything was done properly and with respect. He redeemed Ruth, married her, and provided a home not only for her, but also for Naomi. Ruth gave birth to a son named Obed. Naomi held the child in her arms, her emptiness replaced with joy. The women of Bethlehem rejoiced with her, saying the Lord had not left her without a redeemer. Naomi's story, once filled with loss, was now filled with restoration. Obed would become the grandfather of King David, and through this family line would come generations later, Jesus Christ. The loyalty of a foreign widow became part of God's greater plan for redemption. The story of Ruth and Naomi teaches that faithfulness in hardship is never wasted. Ruth did not know her choice would shape history. She simply chose love over comfort, loyalty over fear, faith over uncertainty. Naomi believed her life was over, but God was still working. Even in her bitterness, he was preparing restoration. This story reminds us that loss does not mean abandonment. Silence does not mean absence. God often works quietly through ordinary acts of faith. Ruth and Naomi show us that love is not just spoken. It is lived. It is staying when leaving would be easier. It is choosing faith when the future is unclear. It is trusting that even in sorrow, God is still writing the story. Their journey began with famine and death, but it ended with hope and legacy. A simple decision on a dusty road changed generations to come. Loyalty, love, and faith carried them through hardship, and God honored every step.